What's going on, everybody? This is the blockchain backer bringing you the latest cryptocurrency news and analysis. Today, we're going to be talking about the Bitcoin price chart along with the XRP price chart, while incorporating previous views that we've seen in past cycles for Bitcoin and where we seem like we are currently right now in our current cycle for the Bitcoin price chart, for the XRP price chart. And while this fall that we've had here in crypto over the last 2 months hasn't really been met with any type of negative news narrative, so everybody's still real optimistic that things are going to rebound, I do find it very difficult to come up with creating new content without sounding like an absolute buzzkill. I recently put out a newsletter on Sunday morning talking about completing the script that we may be further than it seems in regards to a lot of the confusion that the market has right now in regards to, why haven't any of the peak cycle indicators triggered, or where was the euphoria in the market, and how the current spot that we're in right now is difficult because it's really kind of a ranging context that could go on for a little while. That's just going to require a tremendous amount of patience, yet we're still going to get bombarded with a whole lot of like bullish narratives, bullish content as we sit here and kind of have to wait to go through this moment. And I brought this up on Monday. I brought this chart up, and for those who were here back in 2022, 2023, and 2024, we referenced this chart a lot in trying to decipher why the top of the 2021 bull run was so difficult to figure out. And it's because what happened was that the true peak of all the excitement in the market in 2021 took place back in February, March, April, and May, when we had things like Wall Street Bets. That was the introduction of laser eyes and diamond hands, celebrities pouring in. You had Elon Musk doing Saturday Night Live. This is where Dogecoin is going absolutely bonkers, and that this was the peak of craziness in crypto. And then when we rallied up there in October and in November of 2021 for the second rally, most of the altcoins did not go up there with it. It was really just like a retrace. I could show you what like Dogecoin, which was the popular one in here. You could see that Dogecoin barely, and I mean just barely, retraced off that peak of all the euphoria that took place back and all that excitement when this rally happened in here, right? There really just wasn't very much. You could see Dogecoin rallies back to like 29 cents here after peaking up here at like 68, 69 cents. But that for like the altcoin market and for the market in general, it was very muffled in here. And what it became apparent was that we were already in a bear market during this rally that took place here back in November of 2021, and that we went on to proceed to act just like a bear market for the remainder, to then bottom out and accumulate down in here, and then for our recoveries to really happen right on cue, with each of these breakouts kind of happening at the same time as the recovery took place for Bitcoin. But it became real apparent that our bear market started back in peak euphoria, and then in November, it just wasn't anything. You can even see that on XRP in here, right? Here's the peak of XRP back in April. Here's just retracement action, getting nowhere near that peak into this moment. But that this was the euphoria. This was just kind of a retracement with a higher peak in it. And that was the first time that we had seen that here in the cryptocurrency market for Bitcoin. And it left, a ton of confusion. And I had to spend years studying to figure out what happened here. And then to have to like come up with a general belief and understanding that we set a new all-time high in an actual bear market for Bitcoin. And the altcoin market didn't follow along with it. And that was the first time that we had seen that. That didn't happen in 2017. That didn't happen in 2013. It had never happened before. It was very bizarre. So coming into this moment that we've been in right now, I've had to kind of think about it in the way that, is that happening now, right? Like when everybody's thinking, hey, look, we're entering into Q4. I'm thinking to myself, okay, yeah, but sure, let's go ahead and look at past Q4s and see how we behaved. And noticing that the behaviors were very mimicking of what Q4 of 2021 looked like, especially over here on the XRP price chart, but really everywhere, including Bitcoin, that back here in September and October, it was kind of like, wait a minute, like this is like Q4, but this is like this Q4, the one that we had back in the last cycle. And so, of course, when we look at it through this lens, and like we've been comparing these structures in here, but if instead of using this, I actually use Q4 from 2021, of course, we know it was very much like this, where the price pulled all the way back down in here, coming off of this quiet top that happened in here, right? And so everybody's, of course, looking to see, are we going to get a moment like this? which of course is this moment in here and this moment right in here. But what we'd essentially have to argue is that our peak euphoria happened in here, and that's why this was quiet. And so, we followed the Coinbase app rankings throughout all of this stuff. It's like we never were able to get, higher than like rank 200 in Coinbase. Like the crowd just never came back in here. But the question is, back in this moment over in here, were we able to hit that euphoria like we hit the euphoria over in here in 2021? And the answer is yes, we did hit the euphoria. Not necessarily over here, in the middle part of January or in the earlier part of January this year, 173. But notice here by like January 16th, we're at rank 34. January 20th, you're at rank 19. January 21st, rank 15, still January 23rd, ranked 28. Then by January 25th, you're falling down, you're at 59. January 28th, you're at 83. Then by January 31st, back to 115. But again, recalling by here in January 20th, we're getting up into those top 20s, which is the highest we've seen in several years, which of course would imply right around here, we're hitting peak euphoria into people entering into the market, just like over in here when Coinbase is IPOing and when Elon Musk is going on Saturday Night Live, we're hitting peak euphoria over here in the cryptocurrency market. And so the argument being is that just like back in 2021, where all of our euphoria is back in here, and we get a quiet rally, well, this time around, what do we have? We have Saturday Night Live. We have Elon Musk rallying the troops. Everybody's excited because why? Tesla has added Bitcoin to the balance sheet, right? So this whole thing is really kind of centered around Tesla. It's centered around Elon Musk. And then, you have the date ahead of you. Like everybody's looking towards it, towards Saturday Night Live coming, right, on May 8th. Well, what was our narrative? What was our rally that happened in the cryptocurrency market this time around? Well, this time we're rallying around Donald Trump winning the presidency, right? He wins the presidency right there on Tuesday, November 5th. And then he gets inaugurated over here on Monday, January 20th. Right. So while our rally in 2021's got its narrative of Tesla adding Bitcoin to the balance sheet, Elon Musk, Saturday Night Live, this one's more of, hey, look, we're having a changing of the guard. Trump's going to be our president. Trump becomes our president. And then, of course, right here on the 18th, Trump launches Trump coin. And so when you look at it through the lens of we actually did have something to look forward to, right? We had this event horizon ahead of us that everybody was looking forward to. And buy the rumor and then sell the news. Kind of like with Elon Musk adding, Tesla adding Bitcoin, then going on Saturday Night Live. You get through Saturday Night Live. What is it? Sell the news, right? But we can all reflect back on it that the euphoria of the market here in November of 2021 is absolutely nothing compared to the euphoria of back in April and back in May. And the altcoins never did anything close to what they did back in here, just like we've seen in this cycle where the altcoins have not caught up to what they did back in here, just like they haven't caught up back to what they've done in here. And so, of course, the things we're looking for now is to say, well, are we still doing this type of stuff, right? Are we just kind of hanging out in here? Is there anything time-wise showing confluence that we were doing the same thing we did back there, right? Like where you would assume we'd be in something like this. And I wrote about this in the newsletter that I just talked about a second ago to say, you look back on this and you reflect on it to say, where is the peak? Where was the event horizon? Where was the thing everybody was looking forward to? And everybody was looking forward to the inauguration. And then, of course, in the peak max euphoria, Trump launches Trump coin. And then you look at price action to say, how has it behaved currently compared to like your Elon Musk moment, like discussed in here, your Elon Musk moment, looking for this. And what we can see even here on XRP is just like back in here, where we zoomed in on all these things, and you could see all of these events are taking place just identically, where we get our peak, and then we get this rally to take place together at the exact same time. They peak at the same time, and they roll over together. These things, these peaks, right? They're happening at the literal same time. These peaks are happening at the same time with these peaks happening at the same time, right? We had just like a mirror image of what was happening to head down in here. And then when you look at how we're behaving now, it's the identical same story. It's like the market makers have just turned on the switch and have played the market identically, exactly the same as they have with every single bear market. The thing that has made this one so difficult is that I think a lot of people just kind of chalked up what happened back in 2021 as a total fluke that could never ever happen again, where a price sets this high, but the true peak of the market was back over in here, and that we did pretty much the exact same thing, right? And so the challenge of the market right now, if we look at it through the lens of our Elon Musk moment, was Donald Trump launching Trump coin and Donald Trump becoming inaugurated, and our whole rally, of course, happens the moment that Trump wins the presidency. And then you watch all the price behavior to say, look, it's identical again. They're like running the exact same playbook, and they have the liquidation happen on the exact same day. They have the double bottom happen on the exact same time frame. They have these rallies take off and conclude at the exact same time, just as they did back here. That these are identical, and it's like running the exact same script all over again to then break from the range, find the support, and now what? Enter into this range. And when should this range be happening? It should be happening in here, right? Which should be happening in here, which should be happening from what? The break of the 50-week moving average at the 100-week moving average, right? Which we have the break of the 50-week moving average at the 100-week moving average. So the point being is the market is actually just exactly the same as it's done over and over and over again. And the confusing thing, of course, for everybody here in Q4 was they were looking for 2017. And I kept making that argument of like, why does nobody want to look at Q4 of 2021? Why is that like voodoo? We can't look at that. Like that's bad. But when we do look at it through that lens, still to this day, we still see that the price behavior mimics what it was like as if we set a new high after being in a bear market since Trump became president, when our rally was entirely based off of the election and then peaks once he does become officially the president and the launch of Trump coin. So it kind of started this by saying, I kind of find myself in a challenge of things to talk about right now, because this is the overwhelming picture of what I do see. It's not just by overlaying fractals and doing that type of stuff too, right? Like we flip on these indicators and look at it through this lens to say, hey, look, here's what the monthly indicators are doing in here. When our monthly indicators were breaking down here back in 2021, where we get to? Right here. And then it still led to the capitulation moment. That's what we have here, right? Or when our monthly MACDs start crossing over in here, where are we in the market at that time? Oh, we're right there, right? That exact same spot, which still leads to that moment, right? So I find myself looking at this through this lens and saying, how do I create YouTube content that isn't saying, hey, we've got, 2 to 3 more months, maybe more, of just like totally going that way until we eventually go through the capitulation event, right? Which for those who were here in 2018, that would be like your November and December capitulation. And those who were here in 2022, that would be like your April, May, and June capitulation event that happened in there. That's the way we're set up, and that's the way the market has behaved. And it's that we're in this kind of stalled out period. There's been no real negative news narrative to happen in the market, but it looks like things have stabilized, and it's just, are we going to kind of go sideways for months on end until something actually transpires? And it feels like that's just kind of where we are. And it's not like it just feels that way. It's that, look, you can see how the price behavior has been. You can see what the indicators are doing. The price behavior is doing. That's kind of how we're set up. And, when I put these things on here, they aren't to say, here's how deep it's going to go, or this is the number it's going to land on. It's just to kind of show you the timing of how things are moving at this point. We can look at the Coinbase app downloads, right now to see, of course, like there's nobody here, right? Everybody's fighting for viewership. They're fighting for engagement. They're fighting for things and spinning narratives and creating stories. But it feels like, we're just kind of stuck in this thing on how long this is going to last and how long this is going to be in here. And I don't like coming on here to be like a negative Nancy or to, just do any of this, because it's really rare that we do, right? It's really rare that we have to be in an event like this. This only happens, right, once every 4 years that we have to actually be like this, but we're in that right now. And the unfortunate thing is that it just looks like it's probably going to continue traversing for months on end. I think we would all be happy if it happened. Frankly, I'd be happy if it happened a lot faster. Of course, I'd be happy if prices just shot up and went to the moon too, but I have to be like realistic with myself here when I'm looking at the indicators, I'm looking at the price behavior. I have to say, like, it looks like it's going to traverse this way for quite some time. And, how do we talk about that on daily content video to say that, right? So Maybe this is just a good time to start writing my book. I've always talked about wanting to do that, and that this maybe 2 months may be a good amount of time to be able to do that type of thing. But I wanted to show this to you and try to like kind of get maybe your brain thinking about it. If you've had a hard time interpreting, how could we have topped here without it being peak euphoria? If you think about it through the lens like this, if you think about it that it's been like this, and this whole moment was like this, and where we are right now, that you can see those confluences here, just with XRP and relating it to Elon Musk, and then relating it to Donald Trump and the Trump coin launch and Saturday Night Live, and to see how these prices have reacted the exact same and done the same type of stuff as we saw back in 2021 and 2022. So, the thing is, it's not just being like, again, like, hey, we're laying fractals on top of fractals. It's doing these types of things and saying, hey, look, here's the first time that the MACD, right, coming off this peak back here in May of 2021, right, that's Elon Musk, right, we come down here and we rally up, right, so we go over here to our peak over here on January 20th of 2025, right, we come over here and we take out this low, right, once this low is taken out, once we have our second lighter pink bar in here, when momentum starts to slow down, so once we take out this low and we have our second lighter pink bar, where are we? We're in this environment, right? And in these same environments, where still ahead of us is all that stuff, right? And I am not an eternal doomer for life, right? It may just feel that way because the content's kind of been like that for a couple of months, but it hasn't been wrong to be that way for the last couple of months. I think opportunities will come, but I think we just have to kind of like have realistic expectations that this seems the most probable right now. And we'll see if things can kind of end up, painting a different picture at some point. But I just want to point it out to you when it's like, hey, it's still doing it, still looking like it. If we get a capitulation event, I'll take a stab at it, but I'm just having to kind of be patient and wait for that to show up. And I wanted to kind of present this to you to show you these similarities, to say, hey, remember how we did all of this last time and people completely missed the top and didn't understand it? Me included, on thinking there would be like some type of alt season happening in here. I got the top, but I misread it thinking that there would be some alt season in here because it didn't make any sense on why we could set that high and the alts not go right there, right? That I had to kind of like adjust and say what happened, right? And recognizing, it's looking very similar right now. And so we'll see how things go, but I just wanted to show it to you, paint this picture to you, and not try to be an engagement farmer, right? I just think that's what everybody's having to do right now, because this market is really thinning out with participants right now and what's happening. So I think, the things I've learned over time is, you try to do the right thing as much as you can. And then whenever things transpire out the way that, you've been talking about, then, people come back and then they view it. And that's how I've had to kind of treat this at all times, right? I'm typically always making enemies at the tops. I'm always making enemies at the bottom. And it's just the ebb and flow of how it ends up going. And it's never intentional to be that way. It's just, it makes sense that it's that way. The market typically does the opposite of what the crowd is doing. And so when we're saying, hey, look, this looks like the market's going to do this, it's typically not what the crowd wants to hear at the time. And that's why it's hard. So, all right. I wanted to show this to you. I hope you found it eye-opening. So maybe in the coming weeks, if it transpires like this, if it's just kind of like a sideways thing, we'll spend some more time kind of doing research just on the crypto market in general. Because if it does play out like that, like, what do we know? Like, that means that like not all altcoins are created equal, which we of course learned back in 2021. 80% of altcoins did not set new all-time highs, but it was of course far worse this time around, right? So obviously having to really figure out and pick and choose what were the things that mattered, what was consistent again this time compared to last time. So if a capitulation does come around and it's time to be like, all right, man, it doesn't feel good, but I'm gonna flip bold now. Having a thesis on, if I'm buying the market, am I really just throwing money at a bunch of altcoins, right? Or is it very selective and very justified? And, this may be a good opportunity to spend time kind of researching and presenting arguments for those types of things, of what matters, what did matter. And then if that moment does come, that's where I can blast my cash at and have good justifications for it. So maybe that'll be something we kind of focus on here in the coming weeks. But otherwise, I hope that you guys are having a wonderful week. It's been very volatile over there in the crypto market. Lots of craziness, with the Russell up, but silver also continuing to shoot its way up, but crypto still continuing down. So the big mixed signals all over the place. But I thought, hey, look, you can kind of see it in here here. We're still just doing exactly what we've done before. So we'll see how things go, and we'll keep our eyes on it. And of course, check in on it as we always do. But all right, that's going to be it for this one, guys. Thank you so much for watching. If you'd like, you can check out my newsletter over here at blockchainbacker.substack.com. This most recent one has a 40-minute audio recording to go with it. I auto record all of these after I'm done writing them. There's a link down here in the description of this video to the newsletter at blockchainbacker.substack.com. Otherwise, in the meantime, I'll catch you in the next one. That's it. Thank you so much for watching. If you could, please like this video and give it a thumbs up. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe and hit the notification bell so you can be notified of when I create new content and when I go live. As always, this is not investment advice and I am not a financial advisor, but if you ever need a pick-me-up or a little bit of reassurance, just remember that the blockchain backers got your back. Have a good one.